need y'all to hear this story because I promise you, if you ain't heard it yet, you're gonna be sick by the time I'm done. There's an 85-year-old woman, 85 years old. She is from France. She moved to this country because she fell in love with an American soldier, a man who served this country with honor. She built her life here. She buried her husband here. And last week, the United States government, specifically ICE, arrested her, took her into custody. An 85-year-old widow who married an American military veteran. That happened in America in 2026. France had to file a diplomatic protest to get her released. France, our oldest ally, the country that helped us win our own independence, had to tell the United States government, let this old woman go. Let that sit there for a second. Now, I want y'all to hold that image in your mind. 85 years old, a widow, a military family, handcuffed by ICE. And I want you to sit with it while I tell you what the Associated Press found out this week. The Associated Press, not me, not some liberal blogger, the Associated Press investigated the people that ICE has been hiring. And what they found should make every single American furious, regardless of how you feel about immigration, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on. What they found is about something more basic than that. It's about competence. It's about trust. It's about whether the people with badges and guns walking into people's homes have any business being there. Here's what the AP found. Some of the new ICE agents, the ones who have been going on these raids, these enforcement actions, these dramatic arrests, started working before their background checks were completed. Before, not after, not during, before. They were handed a badge and a gun and put on the street before anybody finished checking who they were. One of them had filed for bankruptcy, twice, 2 bankruptcies, and then hired to enforce the law of the land. Another one had failed out of a police academy. The academy decided this person wasn't fit to be a cop. And ICE said, all right, come on in. Another one had formal complaints that he abuses his power on the job, on his previous job. Somebody wrote it down. It's in a file somewhere. And ICE hired him anyway. And the Department of Homeland Security's response, you want to know what they said? They said, and I'm quoting here, vetting is an ongoing process. Man, what? Vetting is an ongoing process. That means they were still figuring out if these people were fit while these people were already out here arresting folks. That means somebody could have a record, could have a history, and be putting handcuffs on an 85-year-old widow before DHS even finished running their name. You smell that? That's the smell of no accountability. And it's coming from the very top. Now I want y'all to do something for me. Think about what it takes to get a regular government job in this country. Not a law enforcement job, just a regular federal position. They run your credit, they check your employment history going back 10 years, they talk to your neighbors, they want to know if you've ever had a parking ticket. The process can take months, and if anything comes back wrong, anything, you don't get the job. But ICE said, you know what? We're in a hurry. We got deportation quotas to hit. We'll check on you later. Now here's your badge, here's your gun, go find some people. That right there, that is not law enforcement. That is a militia with federal credentials. And here's the thing that connects all of this. Here's what I need everybody to understand. We don't know, we cannot know whether the agents who arrested that 85-year-old French widow were properly vetted. We don't know if the people busting down doors in your neighborhood went through a full background check. DHS admitted the process was ongoing, which means some of them didn't. So when they come for your neighbor, when they come for your coworker, when they show up at someone's house with guns drawn, you have no guarantee that those agents were thoroughly checked. No guarantee that there isn't something in their past that should have kept them from getting that badge in the first place. Now stay with me here, because this is where it gets real. I've been watching this administration talk about law and order for over a year now. Law and order. It's their whole brand. It's their whole identity. Law and order. But the AP just showed us that they hired law enforcement agents without completing legal background checks. How you gonna be the party of law and order when you don't follow your own rules to hire the people enforcing the law? And here's the flip test, because I need y'all to do this with me. Close your eyes. Imagine Barack Obama was president. Imagine it's 2012, and the AP runs a story that says, Obama's enforcement agents were hired without completing background checks. Some had financial problems. Some had failed out of law enforcement training. Some had prior complaints of abusing their authority. And then, one of those agencies arrests an 85-year-old veteran's widow from a friendly European country and causes an international incident. You think Fox News would have been quiet about that? You think Lindsey Graham would have found his nap and taken it? Man, they would have called for resignations, hearings, special counsels. They would have run that story every hour until the next election. But when this administration does it, crickets. A paragraph on page 6, and we move on. And speaking of moving on, they already did. ICE's own director, Todd Lyons, announced his resignation this week. The man running the agency just announced he's leaving. And nobody in this administration is standing at a podium explaining what went wrong. Nobody is being held accountable. Nobody is being asked about that 85-year-old woman. See, I'm old enough to remember when this country had something called dignity in how we treated people. I remember that. I remember when America prided itself on being a nation of laws. Not just laws for the ones we want to keep, but laws that apply to everybody, including the government itself, including the people enforcing the rules. I remember when we used to say, we don't do things that way here. We have standards. We have process, because process is what separates law enforcement from lawlessness. Process is what makes it so that when somebody comes to your door with a badge, you can trust that they earned that badge, that somebody checked. We don't have that right now. And I need everybody to understand what that means. Not just for immigrants, not just for the people you might disagree with politically, but for everybody. Because here's what's actually happening. When you hire people without proper screening to enforce federal law with guns and badges, you don't just put immigrants at risk, you put everyone at risk. You put the 85-year-old French widow at risk. You put American citizens at risk. You put people who have every right to be here at risk. You give weapons and authority to people who might not have the judgment to use them correctly. And what does that actually mean for folks like us? For the brother who runs a business in a neighborhood where ICE has been active. For the family whose grandmama lives alone and doesn't speak perfect English. For anybody who might get caught up in an enforcement action run by an agent who shouldn't have been hired in the first place. It means fear. It means vulnerability. It means that the people who are supposed to protect the rule of law are operating outside of the rules themselves. That's the thing about this administration. They will use the word law every single day. They will wrap themselves in the flag and talk about order and safety and protecting America. But when you look at what they actually do, when you look at the AP investigation, when you look at the 85-year-old widow, when you look at the director who just quit, the words don't match the reality. They never did. And if you ain't mad about this, you ain't paying attention. Because this ain't just about immigration policy. This ain't about the border. This is about whether the government of the United States follows its own rules when it sends armed agents into our communities. The answer right now is no. And that should scare all of us. Drop a comment right now. Tell me, would you have gotten a job with 2 bankruptcies and a failed police academy and a complaint file? Because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't. But ICE will hire you, give you a gun, and send you out to arrest somebody's 85-year-old grandma. That's the reality of it. That's where we AT. Share this video because the administration is counting on you not knowing about that old woman in France right now who just wants to understand why America did this to her. That's Straight Talk. I'm Curtis Banks, and I ain't done talking. Not by a long shot.